What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran on the Twitters at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D, joined by Joshua Engleman coming off his anniversary dinner with the old lady, huh?
Yeah, that's going to go over real well.
At Josh Engleman on Twitter. What's going on, man? We got a lot to talk about today.
We do. I've already taken a lap through this bad boy. And in a weird way, it's not nearly as bad as I was expecting it to be. It's all pretty cut and dry until you get to Toronto. The problem is, I think that we're going to see it get really crazy as the day goes on when more and more teams just start lopping off players today. But for right now, it's easier than I thought.
Well, I guess we can take solace in that. 11 games.
Try.
Yeah, 11 games, a decent amount of high totals. There are a few teams that are dealing with injuries that are pretty significant or just sitting players, Detroit being one of them, but we're pretty used to this scenario by now for the most part. Toronto, like you said, is pretty insane. Now, Joel Embiid with the illness, does he play? There are a few spots, Josh, that definitely stand out, but I guess what you're saying, the only one where it's like a true debacle from a top-down standpoint would be the Toronto Raptors right now.
Yeah, I was expecting maybe another team or two that just didn't have any of their legit starters or something in that neighborhood, and we had a ton more value. But there really isn't a lot of value out there outside of the Raptors yet. Now, that's to come. Like, with the Raptors sitting everybody, do Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both play today? You would think no. And maybe they both don't play. Who the hell knows? But even still, like, that's not going to be a spot where we find crazy value. I think it's coming. I just don't know what it's going to be.
Could get a nice betting opportunity in there if George and Leonard are ruled out at the same time. They're laying 12 points on the road right now. Would be pretty significant. If both of them sit, you're going to see that line move a ton. So pay attention to all of that stuff throughout the day. If you can get in quick on that, we're going to get some good betting opportunities. So that's something I'm always looking out for. It doesn't always work. I laid down a decent amount on Philly the other day at -8 with the news that Zion was out. That ended up moving to 12, Josh, and the Sixers only won by 2. What are you going to do? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you're getting your money in with the best possible way that you can.
That's all
you're
you're
going to lose still. Like, it's a math problem when push comes to shove, but the more you do that, the better off you'll be.
That's all you can do. So we're going to skip lineup study for today just because we have a ton of games to get through. And I feel like it'd be more efficient both for us and for you as the viewer. But first, hit that thumbs up. Make this just make it part of your routine. You jump in, you say, okay, it's the fellas. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. We're breaking down all these games, maybe at times getting off the rails a little bit and then getting back on. But the first thing we do is we hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button. Still only like 52% of people that watch this channel, watch these shows are subscribed. If you hate it, just unsubscribe. But for now, there's no harm in hitting that subscribe button. We show up on the recommended feature, browse feature a lot more often. It's just easier to find all of our stuff. That's what I do for all the channels that I like to watch as well. So if you want to get notifications, hit the notification bell as well. But most importantly, subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and let's dive into it. Does Denver Nuggets at the Charlotte Hornets? First game on the docket, Josh, 6.5 point favorites on the road 218.5 total. Both of these teams have basically dealt with the same injuries for the past week or more now. Like Aaron Gordon's probable. Monte Morris is technically questionable, but I don't know. I don't think he plays again today. That leaves us with Barton out. Oh, you think he does play?
Yeah, I think the stuff that I had, or the stuff that I saw, said that he's like ready to be back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of stuff, not a bunch of stuff, but I saw a couple of comments stating that like he was questionable, but more towards doubtful. Okay, so let's just assume that he plays. I don't know how much of an impact it makes. Campazzo's price point is already up to a point where it's not like he's a premier value option, but we'll start with Nikola Jokic against the Hornets.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pulling up the tweet now from, I don't know how the hell to say her last name. One of the Nuggets reporters, Katie something or other. He was upgraded to questionable for today. So that is a step in the right direction at the very least. He's not just immediately ruled out. Anyway, so Jokic is probably the only guy that I have any real interest in on DraftKings. He's projected for 19% ownership right now at 11K. I get it. I'm happy to have him. That might be a little high. We've got a ton of other potential pay up options today. So I don't want to go too crazy on any one individual, at least not yet. And for 11K on FanDuel, you're never going to be upset having Nikola Jokic be your only center. Best play in this game, though, $7,100 Michael Porter Jr. on FanDuel. He's $1,400 cheaper there than he is on DraftKings, currently projected for 30% ownership. And I don't think that that's all that crazy. I had him at 24% into the optimal. So I don't mind at all playing 30% of Michael Porter Jr. That price tag is just not correct for the second option on the team. And then we've got Aaron Gordon, which is just bonkers here. He's 20% owned on FanDuel right now at just 3,900, but he's been so bad. Well, I guess I don't want to say it like that. He's been so not a part of the offense for Denver since he's arrived. 0.8 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. But at 3,900, he can't really hurt you all that much. I think that he does look like an okay value play. I don't want to play him as the chalk value play at all. If it's a cash game, that's different. In GPPs, there are going to be plenty of different ways to get different. That's not right. There are going to be plenty of ways to get different. We'll go with that. I'm tired.
Myriad ways to get different.
Yeah.
There you go.
That works. There we go. I like it. Michael Porter Jr.
People always throw "of" in between myriad and whatever word they're using. But that's actually not correct. It's been adopted because people did it wrong, but it's just myriad, Josh. No myriad of, just myriad.
Take your word for it.
You should. I know words. I also know the Charlotte Hornets are dealing with some injuries here. Miles Bridges out. Devontae Graham questionable for this one. Do you have him in or out?
Graham, I have in.
You have him in.
Yeah.
Cody Martin's still out. Again, pretty much the same thing we've been dealing with. LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier have seen their prices come back up. Rozier on FanDuel had been a really solid value option for a while. He's come up like $1,100 since his last game. So I think we're starting to see a balancing here of the salaries in Charlotte.
Yeah. And just to touch on Graham there for a second, the reason that I think Graham is more likely to play than not play, maybe that's not even the right way to say it, but Charlotte is going to be in the playoffs. They want Devontae Graham to come back and be able to play. So like, he's not a questionable tag where their season is over in 4 days. And then I expect these guys to just be on ice. Like it is better for him to play. So I'm going to err on the side of him playing, at least moving forward. He's useless today, and most of the Charlotte team is useless today. Highest owned guy on DraftKings is $3,500 Cody Zeller. I would go ahead and skip that one. He's at 4.8% ownership. The next highest guy is at 0.2%. So no one's rostering Charlotte, and I agree with it. On FanDuel, I think you can get to Ball, Rozier, or PJ Washington in like the 5% range, just because of having to roster two guys at each position. It's not crazy to get to the guys that play north of 30 minutes. There are no priorities here from Charlotte. They will be one of the worst teams you can get to today.
All right. Well, that's pretty simple.
Yeah, we're going to do that a lot. Trust me. It blew my mind how cut and dry some of this stuff ended up being.
Sure. The Minnesota Timberwolves, 8-point favorites, 227 total. I grabbed the Towns throwdown yesterday. So as far as those packs being plus or minus EV, I think I'd be right around the break even mark, maybe under it, because 3 of the 5 moments that I got were all Pistons, Josh. I got a Josh Jackson, I got a Frank Jackson, and I got a Mason Plumlee.
You can get a Michael Jackson.
I didn't. What'd you get?
I got Porzingis. Porzingis. Low ask on that Porzingis is $80 right now. Okay. So I probably lost money.
Low ask on the Towns is 100. So yeah, you lost money. I mean, for now, I just plan on holding them. I have no interest in selling it for $100 anyway, you know?
No, not at all. When I pull a Michael Mulder and I can sell it for $500, you best believe I don't need, like, that's gone. Goodbye. Right. I don't need you any.
Was it longer. 500 at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absurd. What is it now? It's like, probably like 60.
Let me see. I have Evaluate Market open right now.
Anyway, while you look at it, I'll break down, set this Minnesota team up. There's really not a lot of ownership here either. And I think this is one of the things you're talking about for many teams on this slate. With 11 games, you're not going to have to force anything. Like on FanDuel, the highest you're getting is Towns around 13%. Excuse me, D'Angelo.
Low ask is $99.
Yep, there you go. I sold a Tyler Hero Cool Cats for $1,550. And last time I looked, the low ask was like 60. Think about that. Man, Dopes. Crazy to see what some of them have dropped to. And that was a challenge card, but still. Yeah.
At least it's Hero, though. Like, he has, like, the allure of, like, you understand why that was up. Michael Mulder has no allure.
No, none whatsoever.
Like, Hero could have gone up in theory. If he goes bonkers for the rest of the year, given his stature, right, that could be, like, normal.
That one never could have gone up because it was a challenge piece. But
oh, gotcha. I see what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Other ones, yeah. Like after the challenge is over, they just plummet. But that really plummeted. It was something else. Yeah, I don't know. With Minnesota, though, you know, they face a Detroit team that is once again sitting most of their starters. Grant's out, Plumlee, Corey Joseph out, Diallo out, Wayne Ellington's out. Josh Jackson's got the tooth injury. We'll see if he plays. Frank Jackson's questionable. The whole Detroit side is an absolute mess. On Minnesota, everyone's pretty much good to go. Juancho Hernan-Gomez is questionable, but there's no real ownership going to this team at any level.
No, I expected way more in this game than is actually showing up. But the problem is Minnesota doesn't appear to be playing anybody heavy minutes, which clearly makes sense. Like, why would you play Karl Anthony Towns 36 minutes in a meaningless game playing for absolutely nothing? There's nothing good can come of that. So I kind of nerfed the Minnesota minutes. We've got Jaden McDaniels coming back today. He's 11% owned on DraftKings. That's the highest mark on DK. I don't agree with it. I'd be in like the 6% range. Towns, no, thank you. At 10-2 on DraftKings. Why? Like, you need like a miracle game for Towns today. If you want to play like 5% or Russell or Edwards, just because the prices are a little lower, I think that's okay. But nobody looks good. There are no priorities on Minnesota because I just don't think that they're out there for enough minutes to matter. I just like, it would make more sense to me if they shut those guys down than to play them 36 minutes in a competitive game.
I don't blame you. We did get a super chat from Zach. Says, not sure you two exactly were on that morning, but I won 51K in the shot on Saturday night and definitely listen to you two every day. Maxi, all in was my play and won even with Dort in the lineup. Congrats, man. Thanks for the super chat. But no, that was not us.
No, I literally don't do content on Saturday, except for this Saturday, UFC pay-per-view, UFC live before lock-on, breaking news. I will be on with Jason Floyd. No Pete the Heat Rogers this week. Not going to be able to make the show. So you're getting a less than stellar replacement in me.
You do a pretty good job with UFC. And I will say, Zach.
I try, but Pete's good, man.
Oh, yeah, Pete's very good. Zach, I will allow me to say, though, Josh and I will absolutely take credit for that. So
100%.
100%. There's no question about it. So thank you for that. And congratulations. That's a huge win. Talk to me about Detroit now that these prices, this is kind of the thing this late in the season. When teams have been doing this, Josh, for like 3 weeks now, it's not, you need to get some really extreme circumstances to start getting value. Now, if this is the case where Josh Jackson and Frank Jackson are both out, and then like Saban Lee becomes a whole lot more interesting, or Killian Hayes, even at his price. I mean, if those guys all sit, then you're dealing with a real lack of bodies on this team, particularly ones that are any decent at basketball. So right now, assume the Jacksons are both in. What does that do for Detroit? And if the Jackson brothers, they're not brothers, are out, what do you do with them?
Be careful there.
What do you mean?
Nothing. So Isaiah Stewart is 6,200 on FanDuel, 6,400 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, sure, you know where I'm going. No. Anyway, 6,200 for Stewart on FanDuel looks great. He's projected for 31% ownership. I think that he should be probably north of 20. That's a good value for a starting center. You can't really beat it. Jahlil Okafor is not going to steal minutes from Stewart. They're going to play him as much as they can. So I like getting to Stewart. I don't necessarily like a ton else outside of Saddiq Bey. Bey is the only guy who has consistent minutes for this team. You know, we're talking 34 to 36. It's a great spot against Minnesota too. Pace up, bad D. So Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart on FanDuel both look pretty good. If you want to roll the dice on Killian Hayes, I don't think that that's totally crazy in this spot. On the DraftKings side, it's the same three guys, Bey, Stewart, and Hayes. But whatever I like, it's significantly less than it is on FanDuel, just given the positional structure. And I do not have very much interest in 17% owned Saben Lee unless we start seeing more guys get ruled out for Detroit. Otherwise, Saben Lee is just going to be the backup point guard to Killian Hayes.
So can Detroit possibly, depending on what type of news we get, throw a wrench into the works for this slate?
Yeah, a little bit. Like if Josh Jackson and Frank Jackson both get ruled out, like Servetus probably becomes an okay value option. Saben Lee becomes a value option that's way more important at 3,400 on DraftKings.
Like, does Tyler Cook? Tyler Cook's already getting minutes that are all over the map, right? He went from 20 to 2 to 23. I know he's in the front court, but how many minutes would you give someone like Tyler Cook today with Mason Plumlee out and Isaiah Stewart's minutes kind of all over the place?
I gave him 18. I think he's the backup 4 to Sekou. I gave Sekou 30. I gave Tyler Cook 18.
Yeah, makes sense. Who do you have getting? Yeah, because you're right, because Okafor is just going to get all of the backup 5 minutes at this point.
Yeah.
We know that. We have a pretty good idea of the 4. It's really the backcourt and the wing positions that are in flux here.
Right. Backcourt in particular, and basically like the 2-3. Like Saddiq Bey's minutes are set. They don't have a ton of bodies. Like there's not a lot of other options. They might just be playing 8 guys, which you would think would open stuff up, but in a weird way, it doesn't. But if Servetus plays 24 minutes and 22 minutes in the past 2 games, if he plays 24 again at that salary, like he sucks. He's not a real NBA player. He's not long for this team. He's only in the NBA because of his agent. And I don't have much else to say for him. Like he won't be around all that longer, but 24 minutes or more at the flat minimum against Minnesota, I get it.
Does Saben Lee become a top value option though if Frank Jackson's out or Josh Jackson's out? He's 34 on DraftKings specifically.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's more important if Frank Jackson is out than Josh Jackson, but Agreed. Yes. And either once he gets to 24 minutes projected or more, then he's going to start popping up a little bit. Then that ownership that we have on him is more correct.
Okay. Let's talk about the next one then. We've got Miami and Boston. I was actually surprised to see this game with a 224.5 total. Jaylen Brown done for the season, man. Oof.
Sucks.
That's tough. Victor Oladipo remains out for Miami, but that's kind of par for the course at this point. Heat laying 2 points on the road. Maybe this is a fun game to watch, Josh. From a DFS standpoint, however, we're getting into the same question we always do with this Miami team. They don't have a great offense this year. They do have a good defense. They make matchups pretty miserable on both sides of the floor. On DraftKings, Jimmy Butler's getting a little bit of love. The rest of this team is completely unowned. And on FanDuel, Jimmy Butler, once again, maybe a little bit of Bam Adebayo, but I mean, Miami is probably once again one of these teams you're referring to that we don't need to feel great about today or force.
I don't have anybody in the optimal lineup on Miami north of 8%. We've got Jimmy Butler at 15% ownership on FanDuel. I don't agree with it. They're at full strength, oddly enough, outside of the Oladipo piece. And he's like, to me, they're at full strength. Like Oladipo is not really a member of the Miami Heat at this point. He's played like 4 games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Bam for 7,900 I thought would be a little bit more popular, but he's not. He's more of a 10 percenter. Jimmy Butler on DK, I think, looks a little bit better than he does on FanDuel. It's just not a good DFS. It rarely is a good DFS game, especially when Dragic is healthy, Nunn is healthy, Hero's healthy. There are other places for offense to go. You don't need Jimmy Butler to concentrate all of the usage. And if he's not getting a lot of shot attempts, while he does do a lot on the floor, you kind of need a little bit more scoring at that salary spot.
On a lot of nights, Jayson Tatum would be getting quite a bit of ownership with Jaylen Brown out, but given the matchup, given how big the slate is, given how many other top tier options are on this one, that's just not the case today. And that pretty much goes for all of this Boston Celtics team. Evan Fournier has some popularity coming off a few quality games. I actually want to start there because his shot volume, his usage is not insane. He's not getting to the line at all, Josh. Peripherals look okay, but he's just been extraordinarily efficient over the past 4 games, which has resulted in a few, pretty respectable performances, culminating in a 51 fantasy point game last time out with 30 actual points against the same Miami team. Is Evan Fournier a chase here, or do you think that at his price there is still some meat left on the bone?
I don't trust
54
him
on DraftKings, by the way, 62 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I don't like him on FanDuel at all. He's like a 10 percenter to me on DraftKings. I think he's a little overowned. I see Tatum, Walker, and Fournier as 3 guys that you can mix and match at 3 separate salary tiers: 5,400, 7,700, 9,700. Whichever one of those guys fit, I think you can get to in this spot, but I wouldn't call any one of those guys a priority. Tatum at 9,700 on FanDuel would be the guy that I actually do think is a bit of a priority, because he's just going to do a lot more with Jaylen Brown out. We've seen the usage rate climb.
So basically, mix and match some Boston guys in. Don't have a ton of them, but
no.
if you end up with a little bit of Fournier, Tatum, or Kemba, you're all right with it.
Yeah, and look, I have Tatum, Walker, and Fournier as like 8 to 10 percenters. It's pretty low. There are no knockdown awesome plays coming out of Boston and Miami to me outside of Tatum on FanDuel.
Are you logged into the Awesemo account?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was you or not in chat.
Well, we got dummies being dummies, so got to let everybody know instead of just making stuff up.
Which one? The one that said Josh? Josh says some people aren't real NBA players, and then 3 years later they're all stars.
Yeah, which has never been the case once.
Yeah, I was curious who they're referring to.
No one.
I know you said Embiid wasn't a legitimate NBA player, but you made right on that wrong.
It's clearly never been a statement.
Maybe I'm mixing.
You said the same thing about Westbrook, Oladipo, and Edwards. Those are not the same things.
No, like they're actual NBA players.
Yeah. Servetus is literally just so Arntellem's son gets money.
Is that real?
Yeah. Arntellem's son is Davidas Servetus's agent. Arntellem is the vice chairman of the Detroit Pistons. That is why Servetus is on the Pistons. That's why they took him with a garbage 2nd round pick and gave him a contract that isn't real. Like he was not an NBA prospect.
Okay, fair enough. So you would not compare that to a Victor Oladipo or a number 1 overall pick, Anthony Edwards?
No, not even close. It's not even comparable.
No, I don't think it is either.
Super nepotism stuff going on in Detroit.
The Clippers are 12-point favorites, 218 total. If you're wondering why they're such huge favorites, yes, Toronto Raptors have been a disaster this year and lost me a lot of money on the betting front. But here we are once again. No Siakam, no Van Vliet, no Lowry, no Anunoby. Chris Boucher is questionable, so we'll see how that plays out. My assumption is even if he plays, he's still going to be limited. On the Clippers side, maybe you're right. Maybe you see one of Leonard or Paul George not play, and then that line moves and this game remains a little bit closer. But the Toronto side is going to get a little messy. We got to get into the weeds there. First, we'll get through the Clippers. Do you think, assuming they're at full strength outside of the, of course, Serge Ibaka being out, do you think there's good value here or anything solid at the top for the Clippers?
I don't mind getting to Leonard or George if they're in. I mean, who the hell knows if they are? I mean, these guys get scratched after a lock on a regular basis. So I don't
I was
exactly
checking to
feel
see if they were
comfortable.
on a back-to-back, and they're not. They play again on Thursday. So
Yeah. I think, you know, if you want 15 to 20% of Leonard or George on FanDuel, if you know that they're in, to me, that is perfectly fine. 8,400 and 8,200. Like those salaries aren't prohibitive at all. Paul George has been pretty good as of late too. Leonard's been kind of crap, different position. So it looks a little okay.
he really has not been very good, has he?
1.07 fantasy points per minute for Kawhi over the last 30 days.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange too, because have you seen outside of his last game against the Knicks, where he got up 26 shots and only knocked down 9 of them? Have you seen the shot volume in some of these most recent games? I mean, 11, 12, 6, and 9. The crazy thing is they lost 2 of those in, like 2 possession games. So it's not like he just coasted through to a win. I was wondering the other day what I was looking at there with just such, I can't even think of the word where he's just completely disinterested, or what do you think that is? Do we just say, it's a lull in production towards the end of the season coming up on the playoffs? If I had to guess, that's what I would say.
I mean, they should want to win here, I think, but or maybe not. I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, they're probably playing the Blazers. Maybe they're playing the Mavs. If I'm the Clippers, I don't want to play Dallas at all. I think that's a problem for them. Because I just wouldn't want any part of Luka. And they've been really, really good since like the beginning of the season. As long as they're avoiding the Lakers, though, I'm sure they don't really care.
Yeah, I guess, or the Nuggets. I mean,
yeah, they can't win.
Who?
Nugs.
Beat them last year.
Yeah.
And they got
Jamal Murray.
They got Campazzo. Who needs Jamal Murray, right?
Fair. Yeah. I like Reggie Jackson on DraftKings, by the way. 4,800, probably plays about 30 minutes against the B squad of Toronto. I'll take my chances if he's 6% owned.
What teams have the most pressure on them going into the postseason? In my opinion, it is the Clippers in the West and the Bucks in the East. You could argue that it's the Brooklyn Nets. I get that. I actually think the Sixers have far less pressure on them than either the Bucks or the Nets, because no one really expects the Sixers to beat the Nets or the Bucks. But the Clippers, man, they were embarrassed. They had an embarrassing exit last time out.
If that goes wrong for the Clippers, I don't think Paul George is on the team next year. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Blazers, a lot of fire, a lot of smoke on Terry Stotts losing his job if this doesn't go right. In a weird way, the Jazz probably have a pretty decent chunk, just given how big their regular season is. Do they look more like the Bucks or like, a couple years ago Hawks type teams? But I'm with you on Clippers for sure. Like that, to me, that's number one with a bullet.
Or at least get to, you at least have to get 7 into the Western Conference Finals,
I don't think that there's any pressure on the Nets unless if somebody's out, then I don't think they have the same pressure.
No. I'm saying
their pressure only exists if they're at full strength. Yeah.
If they're all healthy, and Harden said he'll be back before the postseason, I think there's a lot of pressure. I mean, that is a Durant, Irving, and Harden led offense. It's finals or bust for them for sure.
Yeah.
And I think for the Bucks too, though, Josh, I mean, it's been a few years now where they continue to underwhelm, and Giannis goes back-to-back MVP. You've got Middleton. Now you've got Drew Holiday. To me, the Bucks have a lot of pressure on them. So it's going to be a fun postseason.
They shouldn't have as much as people think they should.
I think they absolutely should.
This is how the NBA has always worked. You finally get over the hump, you make it into the playoffs, and then you grind through another team and another team. And you have this big, this has been the story of the NBA for decades, where you take this slow climb through the playoffs till eventually you conquer somebody and you get in. And I still think that they're in that slow climb. And I think we overreact to how old Giannis is. He should be doing this for another 10 years,
Sure, but for me, it's not that. And I agree with you in terms of that slow ascension to the top. Yeah. But my problem is when you are back-to-back MVP, when you have the best record in the league, when you score more points as a team with the largest margin of victory average in the league ever, right? Ever. in my opinion, whether it's fair or not, that places pressure on a team to get further into the playoffs because what else do they need?
Here's the thing. It's been 2 years of them being good. Plus, and this year is now the third. Last year's the bubble. That's a super weird playoff series. Giannis goes down. Hurt. So we're really only talking about 2018-19 as the first year that they were any good, the first year of Coach Bud. To me, we're accelerating their timeline faster than it needs to be. They're one of the best teams in the league. Some of these teams are always going to lose.
Yeah. So who do you got winning the East and the West? Who do you guys in chat have winning the East and the West?
I feel like you and I could do a show on this.
We will one day, but for now, because we have so many games to get through.
I think the West is so difficult because my pick is the Lakers so long as LeBron James is healthy. And I have no idea if he's healthy. I just don't know who the hell I would pick if it's not the Lakers because I don't feel comfortable about taking anybody else from the West. So I'm going to go out and say the Lakers.
Okay.
And for the East, I'm going to say the Sixers.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I think that the defense will be a really big asset. I don't really trust the health of the Nets yet. They're going to be a ridiculous the dichotomy of Sixers Nets, the incredible defense and less than stellar offense for the Sixers against the exact opposite is fascinating.
Really fun series.
But the key piece to all of this is if the Sixers are the 1 seed, the Nets and the Bucks have to fight it out. The Sixers get to dodge that other good team.
That is huge, isn't it? That's huge.
Yeah, it's massive. I would probably take whoever the 1 seed was in the East because they wouldn't have to play 2 legit battles. The Sixers don't give a shit about playing the Knicks or the Hawks.
No. They might drop a game or so, but ultimately, good luck stopping Joel Embiid and good luck in the final 5 minutes of that game scoring on the 76ers. So yeah. All right. I'm going Lakers, although it pains me. And I think this is the year. I think this could be the Bucks, man. But I don't think it comes down to Giannis as much as I think it comes down to guys like Middleton being able to shoulder a heavy enough load when teams sell out that's the problem. To sell out Giannis. Teams are going to set, they sell out to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo in the postseason. And in the past, guess what? It's worked. So Ken Middleton and Holiday, who I think is a phenomenal addition to this team, and even Brook Lopez, can these guys step up and make an impact? I think they can. It's a really deep team. So we'll see.
Yeah, getting Drew Holiday shooting 41% from 3 this year to get that over Eric Bledsoe changes a lot for the Bucks offense.
And Holiday's a great defender too. So it's not like you're losing anything on the defensive end. You're gaining on both sides of the floor. It's a big addition.
One of the 5 best on-ball guys to be able to have him in a series against Brooklyn to just, I don't want to say take Kyrie or James Harden out of the game because that's not how that works for those guys. But those dudes got to work with Drew Holiday, and they don't want any part of Drew Holiday. That's not a fun day for them.
If you don't have Chris Boucher today, that gives us 9 for the Raptors, right?
Maybe. I mean, Aaron Baines hasn't played in I don't know how long, definitely over a month. So I'm going with 8. Baines would be 9. I didn't put Boucher in. I don't know if I should or not. This is a tricky spot.
It's a really tricky spot. What we do know is that all of the top players are out. And Kem Birch, let's start with Kem Birch. We can talk about Malachi Flynn as well. Kem Birch has actually been pretty productive since assuming that starting role once Chris Boucher went down. Now, if Chris Boucher remains out today, you have to assume that Kem Birch soaks up another significant role at the starting center position.
I gave him 32 minutes, but I gave a bunch of idiots a bunch of the 30 plus minutes here. Malachi Flynn, Trent, Yuta Watanabe, Stanley Johnson. This is the best place on the slate right now. We've got Jalen Harris, who is my number 1 contender on DraftKings, by the way. I don't even know who he is. Malachi Flynn, Yuta Watanabe, Stanley Johnson, and Gary Trent, all projected for 25% ownership or more right now. And I agree with every single one of them. Same sort of story on FanDuel. A little bit less so for Jalen Harris because he's 4,200 there, but I still think he looks spectacular. I don't. No one's good. Most of these guys are like 0.9 or less fantasy point per minute guys. There's no confidence here, but you have to roster them because they don't have enough bodies. I explained this on my contenders video. I want to make sure that I say it again. And I'm going to talk about it because Harris, Flynn, Watanabe, Stanley Johnson, and Gary Trent were my top 5 plays on DK in my contenders video. The whole Raptors. The sum of their odds of being in the optimal lineup is 155%. So people will see all 5 and think like, oh, that's stupid. You're not going to get 5 Raptors. It's blah, blah, blah. That's not what it's saying. That's just the likelihood. At 155%, what that's saying is 1.5 Raptors is likely to be in the optimal lineup. The most likely scenario is you get either 1 or 2. And that's the way that you kind of need to look at that data. 3 of those guys are going to fail. You just have to get the right 2.
Man, 1.5 almost seems low. I guess maybe not against the
11 games, man. There's so many other options that can just get you into an optimal lineup.
No doubt about it. Yeah. And if we assume that Baines isn't in the rotation though, and Chris Boucher doesn't play, that number's got to come up.
No, that's exactly what I have.
You have Boucher out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Look, I have Jalen Harris in the optimal 46% of the time. Malachi Flynn, 31. Yuta Watanabe, 30. Like, I'm not light on any of this stuff.
No, for sure. And then Stanley Johnson will fail because Stanley Johnson could be the only player out there and he would fail. I take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but my God, that dude is a per-minute producer. He has had some just absolutely dreadful performances where he might play 35 minutes, Josh, and give you 7 fantasy points. Just kind of what you get out of him. I think if you're looking for the safest options, right? Here's the thing. Like right now we have Khem Birch getting no ownership at all.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with 0.1? See, to me, that's kind of weird because if all of these other guys are going to be massively owned, Khem Birch getting 32, maybe even more minutes. He played 36 only two games ago without all of the top players. Do you think it's still worthwhile just to get none of him? Tell me why.
I have him dead last of the 8 guys that I projected. I gave him 32 minutes and he shows up in the optimal 4%. To me, Birch would be the worst play for Toronto. He's not like he's call it like a 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy, depending on the day. The problem is he's already appropriately priced. He sees no real benefit from any of these guys being out. He's already just doing the same thing that he was doing before.
Well, yes and no. I mean, he was appropriately priced for Boucher being out and was putting up good numbers at that price point. Now you're taking everyone else off the floor.
Right. But the problem is he's 6,200. You're getting everybody else to get this value. And then you don't have to pay for other 6,200 guys. You now have 8K and 9K to spend on legitimate NBA players.
Sure. Look, in no way am I saying he's one of the top options from Toronto. I was just surprised to see his ownership below 1%. That's all I was saying. But yeah, look, Watanabe, Malachi Flynn, Jalen Harris, these guys, you don't have a choice. This is the Houston Rockets from a few days ago. It's exactly what it is.
Trent on FanDuel feels like the safest option to me. He's 4,900. He's one of the few guys on this team that actually has like a high usage rate, even when other stars are on the floor with him. So to me, he's going to have carte blanche to shoot as much as he wants. But he's also projected for 48% ownership. So I'm not exactly breaking news.
Right. So Toronto at this point is the linchpin because everything revolves around Toronto Raptors right now. It's that simple. It really is. Like there's no two ways around it. We have of ownership. I'll just use DraftKings as a reference right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 6 highest owned players are all from Toronto.
Yep. Yeah. The big news, honestly, keep an eye on Boucher and Baines. If we know that those guys are active or playing or however you want to make that distinction, that will be a big thing for Stanley Johnson, Freddie Gillespie, Bembry to an extent because he kind of plays up and down the positional spectrum. I don't think that those guys would matter all that much for Flynn, Trent, probably Watanabe. This is the NBA in the last week of the regular season.
Yeah,
people.
This is exactly what we should be expecting. And it'll probably get worse throughout the day, which is why you want to tune into the tip-off show, which is exactly why you want to tune into the deeper dive and live before lock, closing out the day's shows with Josh and Eric at 6 p.m. It's got to be done. And if you want to stay up to date with everything as well, and you're not a premium sub at Awesemo, our ownership projections for the main slate are entirely free today for NBA. So that's something that you should absolutely take advantage of if you're not a premium sub. MLB top pitchers tool as well, PGA golfer rankings, and NHL main slate top stacks. But these are all premium tools that are usually behind the paywall. We rotate a bunch of them throughout the week to give you an idea of what we have at Awesemo. If you want to see more, you want to check out the tools built by the #1 ranked player, Awesemo himself. You want to check out and used by him, not just built, but used by him every day as well. You want to check all this out: the ownership, the top stacks, the boom bust tool, the optimal lineup percentage plays, what else? The lineup builder, all the premium articles, the top golfer tool, top fighter tool, top driver tool. Like, we have everything we have for NBA that you hear us talk about, we have for every other sport in some form or fashion. So if they have contests for it on DraftKings FanDuel No House Advantage, we've got content for it. The best tools out there that you're going to find. And we see a lot of Awesemo avatars at the top. So check those free content out. But if you want to check everything else, whether it's a weekly, a monthly, an annual, could be less than $4 a week for an express. We want to go single sport, all sport throughout the year. Whatever it is, we got you. Awesemo.com/join. And happy to take questions on that. You can DM me if you have any questions about subscriptions. All right, Josh. Philadelphia is facing the Indiana Pacers. They're 6.5-point favorites, 235 total in a 76ers game. Kind of eye-popping when you think about it, but that's kind of what you get from the Pacers right now, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the pace of this game is incredible. This is a big-time swing game for this slate because $9,700 Joel Embiid he could break this slate. Aggressively break this slate against Indiana. Sabonis is terrible defensively. This is a huge pace up spot. Embiid's just going to put him in the basket over and over and over again if this game is breaking the way that we would like it to.
Yep.
I don't know how many minutes he plays. I gave him 31. I tried to be, I think what I'd like to think is pessimistic if this game stays close. And, 6.5-point line, like that implies that it could be close. I don't think that they just let Embiid rip. That would be crazy to me. We haven't projected for 8% ownership.
Well, he's also questionable. Like, that's just assuming he plays.
Right. Non-COVID illness makes me feel a little bit better. They're not nursing an injury. I mean, obviously Embiid probably has like dings constantly, but if this were like an ankle or a knee, I would not feel well at all. But if he's playing, he's not hurt. He's got the sniffles.
Right. Now, I'll tell you something that'll make you feel a little bit better about this. Post-game show the other day against Detroit, they asked him, like, you're not sitting out any of these games. Do you think maybe you should get some rest down the stretch? He goes, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, I'm not sitting out of any games for the rest of the season. I want to be in the best shape of my life going into the playoffs. I have no plans on resting going forward. So that's straight from the horse's mouth. Like, Joel Embiid does not want to rest. And I said that to you the other day on one of these shows. Like, if it's up to him, this dude is never sitting out unless it's a serious injury, right? Like when he hyper, but if it's up to him with bumps and bruises, banging in the post and do, like, he's playing no matter what. Joel Embiid's not nearly as soft as people like to make him out to be. He's had some significant injuries, but if he can play, I'm assuming that he's out there lobbying against the medicals team, telling him I'm playing today. Like, I need to stay in shape. I'm playing. That makes me feel comfortable, Josh, that if it is a relatively close game, you do get around 30 to 32 minutes from Embiid.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, he's definitely sitting out the final Sunday. There's no chance he's playing against the Magic if they have the 1 seed locked up.
Well, if they lock it up, that's totally different. But I still think
their last 2 games are Magic. Like, they don't need him.
No. But here's the thing, though, right? I've expressed my concerns about blowouts and haven't really been wrong, right? Like 2 of the last 3 games, he's played 23 and 25 minutes, but then he played 33 against New Orleans. So the ability for Embiid to play good minutes is still there, but there's certainly a higher risk of him playing 23 to 25 minutes than there was back in February.
Absolutely. It does make me nervous, but if his ownership is single digits, I am absolutely taking the shot there. I can't see a reason why I wouldn't want to have Joel Embiid tonight. But we didn't even talk about the highest owned play on Philly today. You ready for this bad boy?
No, 100% no, but go ahead.
Well, you're going to gloat at least a little bit. 20% owned Ben Simmons on FanDuel at a crisp 6,700 today.
Oh, would you look at that?
What's really crazy is he's playing better now than when we were talking about it then. Yeah, 1.16 FanDuel points per minute. That's actually higher than the rate that I have him in as a baseline by 1/100th of a point, but still. His play has improved and his price has gone down. I'm cool with that. So I 100% agree with that ownership on FanDuel at 6,700. That's too low. I like getting Tobias Harris too. I would say play 2 of 3 of Philly. Like I wouldn't want all 3 of those guys in one lineup. You're kind of just crossing your fingers and hoping for overtime at that point. Those, to me though, they're the only 3 guys that I'm looking at. Seth Curry is too expensive at this point. 5,500 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DraftKings, I guess is okay. But you try to get Seth Curry on days where he's like 3,900.
Right. Yeah. I have no intentions of paying a premium for a guy like Seth Curry. Although when the threes are raining down, he does become, somewhat appealing, and he's shooting particularly well lately. The issue that I have though is I don't, this is weird, Josh, but I don't like efficient shooting when it's affected price points. So what I mean by that is his price is up because he's shooting like 80% or 70% over his last 4 games.
Yep.
It's not up a ton, but it is up like 700-800 from where it was before he went on that tear. Efficient shooting's fine if it's Steph Curry shooting 25 times a game, but when it's like 7 for 10, 8 for 10, 5 for 8 from 3, 6 for 6 from 3, like he did a few games ago, that to me is wildly concerning for a guy that is not going to give you the peripherals to mitigate the damage if his shooting regresses.
By the way, the Indiana Pacers allow a league low in 3-point attempts.
I saw that the other day. Yesterday, I was looking for Washington to see where they were. And I noticed that as well. And it seems so strange. But
they allow a league high 39% shots at the rim. So what up, Joel Embiid?
I was going to say, let's see. I'm going to tell you right now, points in the paint allowed for the Indiana Pacers. I'm assuming it is up. Okay. Points in the paint.
It won't be as high because I don't think it'll be as
highest
high as the
in
frequency.
the league.
Is it really?
Highest in the league. Yep.
Interesting. I would have thought it was a little bit lower than the frequency because of Miles Turner.
Yeah, you would think so as well, but no, Pacers are allowing more points in the paint than any team, including the Sacramento Kings. So Joel Embiid, if he gets his minutes tonight, my God.
Like, think about this. Indiana allows the most shots at the rim and the second lowest field goal percentage at the rim.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
It tells, normally it would tell me that they have no problem allowing those shots at the rim because Miles Turner is going to put it in the 5th row. Now, I think that's a gigantic problem because now they're going to allow those shots and they can't stop them.
There's no way they can stop him.
Nope.
Yeah. Joel Embiid, unless he just like plays poorly on his own, which he's done on multiple occasions, everybody does, or is limited today, he's going to have a huge game. So
the question becomes, how aggressive will Ben Simmons be? Because he takes 65% of his shots at the rim. He basically takes all of his shots from like the paint and the restricted area. This game should fit him perfectly.
It's not a question, Josh. That's not a question anymore. Ben Simmons will not be aggressive. It's not a question. It
happens like once every 4 months or once every 4 weeks, and then I get all riled up. Like that's right, the Ben Simmons we need.
Right. If we're talking about like a 10%er, then yes, of course it's possible. But if the question is how aggressive will Ben Simmons be in a perfect matchup, the answer is he won't be.
Yeah, he's probably more aggressive if this shit were the opposite.
Exactly. Dude, Utah, he had 50 actual points or something?
Yeah.
That pissed me off. So everyone's like, look at Ben. I'm thinking, yeah, look at him. Look at this guy.
I'm with you, man. That pissed me off too.
It's so frustrating, dude. What are you doing with the Pacers?
Well, I mean, feel free to play Domantas Sabonis at no ownership whatsoever. It's not a great spot for Sabonis. Clearly, it's rarely a good thing to get Philly ever. If Embiid is out, it looks even better for Sabonis. But we're projecting him for 7% ownership on FanDuel and 5 on DK. Do I think he's overpriced? Yeah. I don't think it's crazy. He's at 1.5 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. He's basically doing everything. This is a two-man team. If you want to play Sabonis or LeVert, I can't talk you out of it. I actually do think both guys look like solid GPP plays, because if this game stays close, those guys are the reason that it's happening. I'm happy to get there, but they're definitely, you're paying up to be contrarian with Sabonis and LeVert today.
Yep. Elijah Lee says, why so stuck on Embiid, not value centers? I always look for a value center. It's not about being stuck on Embiid. It's about saying that Joel Embiid is currently projected at 3% ownership.
Yeah.
And
he's 9,700 on FanDuel. He is a value center.
How much is he? 9,700?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. It's really just a spot where he has a dream matchup. Like when we rattle those numbers up, you'd be hard pressed to find a better matchup for him right now, because the Pacers are at least decent enough offensively to maybe not get blown out.
Yeah,
we'll see. Sabonis has been remarkably good though from a DFS perspective lately. I mean, he has been on fire. 70 plus DK points in 4 of his last 6. Let's sit back for a second and actually acknowledge how insane that is. For a big man doing it with triple-double upside every single day. It's just an awful spot against Philly.
It is as bad as it could possibly be for him, because if it's not Joel Embiid waiting for you at the rim, you're getting a steady dose of probably Matisse Thybulle and or Ben Simmons, and that's not going to make your life much better either.
I kind of hope Brogdon plays today. Keep this game a little closer. Don't have to worry.
He's another guy that I expect to come back, but I don't have him in.
Okay. You want to talk about Dallas and Memphis?
Sure.
Memphis Grizzlies, 2.5-point home dogs, 227.5 total. We'll kick it off on the other side, though, with the Dallas Mavericks. No Porzingis. Maxi Kleber, for whatever it's worth, is questionable in this one with that sore Achilles. Do we go back to Luka today against Memphis?
A little bit. I don't want to go to him as much as the ownership shows. We've got him at 22% on FanDuel and 20% on DraftKings. This is another spot where we're going to have infinite value today. That's just going to be the case where you're going to be able to put whoever you want in a lineup for all intents and purposes. That's just going to be able to be done. On DraftKings, we have 9 guys at 10K or higher. Durant is at 9,900. He might be the best play of the entire bunch. Tatum at 97, Kyrie at 96. There's an unlimited amount of ways to spend your salary today. So I'm not entirely sure that I want to hold hands with 20% on Luka if AD is unowned, if Karl Anthony Towns is single digit owned, if Joel Embiid is 3% owned. Studs, like all these guys that I'm naming, all have similar ceilings of slate breakers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be a little bit lighter on Luka and redistribute that if I'm in a large field GPP. I think I'm more likely to win a GPP by being a little bit lighter on Luka, even if you think the floor of Luka is a little bit higher.
That makes sense to me. I mean, he's 21% on DraftKings right now. Ownership is in flux throughout the day. It'll always change. 23% on FanDuel. When I look, I always like to see what the highest priced players are coming in at from an ownership standpoint and see what the disparity is there. There's no real, at least on FanDuel right now, Josh, there's no real legitimate chalk among the guys above 10K.
No, it's 20% on Jokic, 20% on Giannis, 20% on Luka, 25-ish on Curry, same on Durant. I understand why all of that's happening, but there are so many more guys that you can get to. Like AD at no ownership. I get it. He's 10-7 and LeBron's probably coming back, but I'll cross my fingers and he just has like a 30-10 and 5-6 block type game.
The LeBron thing's weird because he's officially he's designated out right now, but then you had Woj saying that he was going to play. I don't know what to make of that. So
he's going to be listed as questionable in the 130 injury report.
Yeah, you're right. Tim Hardaway has played, relatively well lately. Take Porzingis off the floor and, add a little usage over his way. Aside from that, though, I mean, when you're talking about guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, who I quite frankly on DraftKings do not understand that price point whatsoever. That's just heinous. Josh Richardson. I hate playing role players from the Dallas Mavericks 9 nights out of 10.
Yeah, they're all just similarly not all that good. They're great actual NBA players. Like I love them as a team. They are not DFS players. Nope. I also love how much everybody hates LeBron. It fuels my fire. So much fun to see. To me, Dallas is Luka and nobody else.
Well, I remember you saying that LeBron was not as good as Dwayne Wade when both of their careers are over.
I've clearly never spoken out of my mouth.
That wasn't you either?
No.
Oh.
Was that like, were you being serious and like somebody said that? I didn't know if you were grabbing that from somebody else, honestly.
No. That would be preposterous.
No. He's the best player in the history of the NBA. Chew on that, chat. Chew on that.
I don't know about that.
Chew on that.
You think he's better than Barkley?
That's terrible.
Just terrible, Kenny. Charles Barkley is that show. Can we just credit it? Give credit where credit's due. I mean, half the time, Barkley doesn't know half the players in the league, and that's what
I hate it.
I hate the show. Oh,
I hate it.
You hate Inside the NBA.
I do.
That is disgusting. That show is phenomenal. Him and
Shaq. I think it's good entertainment. I think it makes the league look worse.
No,
we've had this conversation.
It doesn't make the league look worse. You want to know why?
No, because the same people are going to be in chat being like, yeah, that guy does suck because Shaq said it.
No, it doesn't though. People watching Inside the NBA at 1:00 in the morning, right? Or 10:00 on the West Coast. They're legitimate basketball fans, Josh. These are your real basketball fans. Anyway, they know that Chuck doesn't know what he's talking about from a actual personnel standpoint. They know that they're having fun. It does not make the league look bad. It makes the league look fun. And if you can't sit back and enjoy watching that show, man, we got to reevaluate things because that show is so funny. They have the perfect combination.
Now, I prefer seeing Candace Parker be on there and just absolutely destroy Shaq with legitimate pick and roll knowledge.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Look, I already think people are terrible at evaluating basketball. I don't need that stereotype to be perpetuated more and more by those.
They're not evaluating basketball. It's an entertainment show.
They think, but people think they are.
No, they don't, though.
Trust me, they do.
Dumb people, maybe.
Yeah, and those people are outpopulating the smart ones at this point.
But who cares?
Me, so you're saying I've seen Idiocracy. I know how this shakes out, man.
What did you say? Idiocracy?
I've seen this already. Dr. Lexus is going to show up soon enough.
That movie sucked, by the way. Memphis with Luke Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie sucked, man. I turned it off halfway through it. I could not get into it at all. I just felt like it was making me dumber, Josh, and, couldn't get into the entertainment factor. What are you doing with the Grizzlies?
Precious Little here. I assume Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't playing today on the back-to-back. I guess he can, but my first assumption is that he's not playing. We still don't have Grayson Allen. Dylan Brooks and DeAnthony Melton are just slightly over 10% ownership on DK or on FanDuel. I guess that's okay. It's probably a little high on Dylan Brooks, but he's only 4,800, so it can only hurt you so much. We've got Slow-Mo at 11% ownership on DraftKings. I don't have anybody north of 5% on FanDuel. So even Ja at that low $7,300 price tag isn't popping off for me all that much. Memphis is pretty low on my priority list. If you get to Morant or Brooks, Joval, I don't fault you, but I don't think that anybody is an actively good play.
Okay. 6 up, 5 to go. See, people think we're running real behind, but they'd be wrong. We know how to make a push late in the show. It's just what we do here. It's been long enough. Brooklyn and Chicago. And yeah, for whoever asked, did Eric actually say if we get 1,500 likes, he would shave his other eyebrow? The answer to that is yes. And did we get 1,500 likes? Yes. Matter of fact, we almost achieved that during the deeper dive itself and still had a full hour to go. Nailed it. It's happening. I also agreed that I would shave my face, which, yeah, Josh, I look dumb with my face shaven, but it'll grow back in a few days. I'll look fine. You know, the eyebrow though, the eyebrow's tough.
I love that you think that you only look dumb if your face is shaved.
That's good, man. Where'd you learn that? Idiocracy? Listen,
Probably.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's not. And to shave this face, it's going to suck. It's going to suck. But an eyebrow, I'm telling you, dude, could you imagine? That's a pretty awful bet that he put on himself. Like no one even asked him.
I would never do that.
And you did the mustache. You did the mustache too.
But that was a real bet.
That was a real bet. Yeah, exactly. Which I won, if anyone was curious. We'll see. We don't have any crazy stuff to tell you for this one to get to 1,500 likes, but I can tell you this much. Oh, I was going to say, hit that like button for Josh to take the zinc. We don't have anything crazy, but hit that like it just because you like us. And hopefully we bring a good show to the table every day. And if that's the case, quickest and easiest way to support us is by subscribing and hit that thumbs up. If you want to join the channel too, hit that join down there below. You got the Josh emojis, the Laffy, a whole bunch of them. You got the badges and a bunch of other cool perks that come along the way. All right, Brooklyn and Chicago. Brooklyn Nets going into the Chicago Bulls. 5-point favorites, 232.5 total, Josh. Kevin Durant, sub 10K on DraftKings. Let's start there.
I mean, he looks exceptional at 9,900. That price is so silly. And he's playing monster minutes too. 1.5 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. Feel free to jam in Kevin Durant because he's too cheap. It's nuts. I like him at 10-6 on FanDuel.
I know. I still feel like to the time, but so someone's Laffy would be it's lawfully. He said lawfully. Laffy would be a terrible fire truck driver. The building would be burned to a crisp by the time he got there. I can multitask, man. I can multitask.
There's too many buildings already.
That is a very Engleman take right there. Let it burn.
Depends on the building, you know?
Do you think Kyrie's in play today? Because he's had some of those games where kind of everyone just goes straight to Durant and Irving's the one that goes nuclear. He had that 45-point game. He had 45, 5, 4, and 6 stocks against Dallas just a couple of days ago. Is Irving getting slept on at a discount from Kevin Durant?
Not really. He's projected for 12.5% ownership on DraftKings, and I think that is like exactly where it should be. I'd like to have 10 to 15% of them. To me, I'm only playing those two guys, and then Joe Harris is 3,900 on FanDuel. Now you're only getting. This is the perfect example of what we were just talking about before with Seth Curry. You're only rostering Joe Harris because you think that he can make open shots and threes. He's one of the best shooters in the league. He's 3,900. He is not priced up on a heater right now. And he's taking on a Bulls team that's very bad defensively. So I like getting to Joe Harris as a value option. He's 5K on DraftKings. I don't need that nonsense at all. But for 3,900 on FanDuel, that's where you take those knockdown shooters potentially. Matchup against Chicago, not priced up. That's where you get them. If you're ever thinking about playing Seth Curry on a day like today, just go to Joe Harris. It's cheaper.
Makes sense. On FanDuel, just so everyone.
On FanDuel. Yeah, just don't play Joe Harris on DraftKings.
Yeah. Have you seen the aggregate ownership on Chicago today? Specifically?
I did.
It's like nothing at all. I mean, nothing.
Yeah. And I agree with that too.
Yeah. I will say Vooch has played stellar basketball of late, but to get to Vooch, you're paying for him over so many other really good players. It pains me because I would love to get to Vooch against this Brooklyn front court. I really would. I mean, I think it's a great spot. I just don't know how I do it. And that would also mean that you're paying more for him than Joel Embiid.
I can't see how you could justify something like that. I see everyone here as unplayable. Zach LaVine, 8,600 on FanDuel. You want to take that against a bad Brooklyn defense? The only guy that could really keep this team in it. Sure. That to me, that's a reasonable large field GPP play, but Chicago is a low priority team today.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty simple way of getting through this one. Moving to Orlando and Milwaukee, the Magic are 14-point dogs, 230 total here. This is what you should expect from this Orlando team right now. They have had good value recently, but again, once these guys start getting priced up, you know what that means? They just stop being valuable. They're no longer value once their salaries begin to reflect their production and their minutes with everybody else out. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Yes, Cole Anthony on FanDuel has come down to a price where, like you and I said, when someone like Anthony gets there, we can talk about it. On DraftKings, it's well, I don't need to say him, but only one player getting north of 1% ownership on DraftKings as well.
Yeah, so Ignas Brazdeikis is the guy picking up ownership on DK. I actually agree with it. He's only 3,600, and they're cutting these guys' rotations. Like basically everybody's just playing 20 to 28 minutes now. Brazdeikis, on the other hand, played 35 the last time out because they just don't really have guys at his position. I think the Cole Anthony ownership on FanDuel is too high, but it's understandable. I just don't think that he has the minutes upside. 24, got 29 the game before that, 21, 21. I just have a hard time saying that anybody gets the full run. Like you need every one of those minutes for Cole Anthony today, and I'm not entirely sure he gets it. So he's like a 10%er at 20% ownership. Brazdeikis on DraftKings is fine. This is as bad as it gets for Orlando. The real question becomes, does everybody play for Milwaukee?
Dude, what in the hell has happened to Cole Anthony's playing time?
At the end of the season, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting you to have the answer. It's kind of.
Well, I assume that they just get their ass kicked every day, and you just go to other people.
Yeah, I would just think with someone like Cole Anthony that you're going to be investing parts of the future in, right? That you'd want to see everything he can do. Maybe they've seen enough. Maybe they've seen enough for the year. I don't know.
I mean, what are you going to see if it's Cole Anthony, Dwayne Bacon, Gary Harris, Ignas Brazdeikis, and Mo Bamba out on the floor? You're really gaining a lot against Drew Holiday, Middleton, DiVincenzo, Giannis, and Brook Lopez? Probably not. How many guys would you draft on Milwaukee before you got to one of the active players for Orlando? All of them?
Probably 2 or 3, yeah. I mean, I would take Cole Anthony over Middleton. No,
it's a lot.
Yeah, most of them. Would you take Cole Anthony or Dante DiVincenzo?
Dante DiVincenzo, but not even close. Look, here's the real key. If Milwaukee rules out Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez today, how many points are the Bucks still favored by?
14?
6?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
If they were out, yeah. 8,
6.
probably.
Yeah. So no,
I think that's unfair though to say that DiVincenzo is a clear. Oh, if we're talking about Cole Anthony's playing with all of these scrubs,
he's a rookie. Like right, it's not close. I'm not saying that Cole Anthony can't be better than Dante.
You're saying
DiVincenzo.
Where they currently, okay. Oh,
yeah.
That's different then. Okay. I thought we were talking about like trajectory. You're talking about in their current form. Oh yeah, I would take DiVincenzo.
Oh yeah, I have no problem projecting Cole Anthony to be slightly better, but it's 1,000%.
That's different.
DiVincenzo now.
I thought we were projecting out. Okay, so yeah, I'm with you then. Then pretty much everyone on this team.
Yeah, like, God, it's craziness. It's craziness. 4 or 5 of the guys on Orlando are just PJ Tucker.
I know, dude, it's crazy. Now you may not like this, but I'm taking the same because I know you are. The numbers to you matter. I get that. They matter to me too, but I'm taking the same. I am adjusting the way I look at things late in the season. I've told you guys that. Like I honestly am. And I'm taking a little bit more of a subjective feel, I guess, to guys like Giannis. I just don't think there's any reason for him to get these minutes. Said it the last 2 games. He's played 29 minutes. They got blown out last game, but Houston was competitive in that game. And Budenholzer knew that they were still going to win. And Giannis played 29 minutes. He shot only 11 times. He only got to the line twice. Giannis got to the line twice against the Houston Rockets without Christian Wood. Do the math there. Like they're coasting right now towards the end of the season. And I would truly be surprised if Giannis played 30 minutes today. Just saying.
I have him in for 30. That makes 33. That makes him the only viable play for Milwaukee. I don't get the sense that I'm like super comfortable getting to anything from Milwaukee here. You need a full run for Giannis, and I don't know why you would get it.
I don't know why. Even if Orlando, this is the thing though, like even if Orlando semi hangs in there like Houston did, I think Giannis still sees limited minutes. That's my issue.
Yeah, because I don't think it matters all that much whether you're the 2 seed or the 3 seed. And those are the only 2 spots that they can be at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they want to be the 2 seed.
Right. But what I'm saying is they're going to win this game anyway, even if it looks somewhat competitive down the stretch. That's what
they should. I would not be surprised if we saw some of these guys ruled out. Me
neither. I thought the same thing against Houston, and they played. Ultimately, yeah, if I'm going to someone, it would be Giannis. But I'm just not comfortable going to this team today. Can they do it in 3 quarters? Absolutely. They can. Yep. But there's a lot of guys projected to play 4 quarters today. Yeah, there's that too. So
this is another one of those blowouts that we were talking about where the Bucks could score 90 points and win by 35.
Yeah.
Like Orlando could just not score.
Yep. It's
over without anybody looking good for Milwaukee.
It's a real problem. Yeah. Or the Bucks could score 120 points through 3 quarters. There's also that.
Yeah. They could be 70% from the field.
Yep. And then you're glad you have Giannis. I'm just from a minutes perspective. I think he gets more than 30 today and you're happy about it. So Phoenix and Golden State. What are we doing with the Phoenix Suns who get a nice little pace up spot against the Golden State Warriors? 230.5 total. Suns laying 5.5 on the road.
Well, it's pretty much the same story for Phoenix as it usually is. If you want to play any of Ayton, Booker, Bridges, or Paul, I think it's reasonable. It's a pace up spot against Golden State. Golden State's shrinking their rotation. They're only running 8 guys right now. Only Chris Paul is in double digits in ownership. He just crests 10%. I see everybody else is like an 8 to 10%er. So one of those guys is going to be fine. There are no priorities coming out of Phoenix. Although Devin Booker is only 7,700 on FanDuel today. To me, that's a little bit lower than I would have expected. He hasn't been playing great as of late. Phoenix has been a little off, but maybe Golden State is the cure for what ails him. So I like getting to Booker a little bit. Ownership is already there, but as per usual, you're not rostering a lot of guys from Phoenix. There's no value to be found.
Okay. Chris Paul's 7,800 on DraftKings. Bad play, decent play, or great play?
Decent play.
I think he's a decent play. Yeah. I think he's a 10%er, right? 10 to 15%er.
Sure. I would say 10 would be my peak.
Golden State, Stephen Curry. Steph is the only non-Raptor in the top 5 projected ownership on DraftKings today, Josh. So that should tell you all you need to know. His shooting has been just absolutely remarkable. It's every single night, you know. It's funny though, because where you and I earlier in the season were kind of saying, hey, he needs to score 40 plus points to get to 60. I think a lot of people look back on that and like, oh, take the L. Well, in all seriousness, if you look at what he's done, it's kind of true.
He's shooting 23s a game.
He needs to get the 40 to score 60. It's still true.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a single thing about that.
And Westbrook, on. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
I was just going to say, and Westbrook has 8 games with 80 plus DraftKings points on the year.
Yeah,
that's true, by the way. 8.
Oh, yeah. Look, he's played 40 minutes a game.
Guess how many games of 60 plus Westbrook has?
All of them? I don't know.
Yeah, 29.
Oh, my God. And he was garbage at the beginning of the year. Most of those are probably coming in the past 6 weeks.
I would think so. It's insane.
Yeah.
But, you know, Luka has 4 games. There's been 19 games of 80 plus DraftKings points this season, right? In the league.
Yeah.
Westbrook has 8. Luka has the second most with 4. So as often as we look at Luka and it feels like he's not having that great of a season, he has 4 80 fantasy point DraftKings point games this year.
No, he's been incredible. He's going to be a top 5 MVP candidate. He's going to be on the first team All NBA. I mean, this dude's one of the best players in the basketball.
What are you doing with Steph?
Not playing 27% of him. I would rather get to Durant than Steph in this spot. Slightly cheaper too. just and given the ownership, slightly cheaper in ownership. Now, I still like Steph. I haven't projected well north of 50 fantasy points. The 10-3 and 10K aren't stopping me, but it's not a good spot against Phoenix. The defense is good. Now, defense doesn't really matter for Steph when you can pull up from 35 feet. But again, you need a very specific outcome from him. He's got it, and he's going for that scoring title right now. That he's obviously in the news right now. At least Bazemore chirping for him. I just think it's easier to play some of the other pay up options today than to go to the guy that is already the highest owned guy. Even though I think that he looks good, like you've got Joel Embiid at $100 more at 1/9 the ownership. You've got Durant less owned. I think that there are some easier ways to go there, but please just like, if you want to play Steph, play Steph. He's incredible. He grades out really, really well. There's just an infinite amount of guys that you can pay up for. Some of them are going to look really good. Some of them aren't, whether their ownership is 25% or not.
He can fail a lot easier than guys like Westbrook too.
Yeah.
His price is down to 10K on DraftKings though, which is a little bit strange to me. You know, he's dropped 500 essentially overnight, but you know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, if assuming James plays, or LeBron, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's the 10th highest priced player on DraftKings today. So that does make sense that he's getting a little bit more ownership than we'd think.
Yeah, absolutely. I just prefer Durant right next to him.
Anything else for Golden State?
Wiggins, Draymond, Bazemore, they're all, 5 to 10 percenters. They're playing a ton of minutes. They've, as I mentioned before, they locked this rotation down to just 8 guys. So the minutes are there for some of them, but if you're looking for priorities, Steph is the priority.
Okay. 2 games to go here. Before we do that, let's say what's good to our sponsor, No House Advantage. I'm happy to talk about No House Advantage because it's a peer-to-peer player prop format, tournament style. You don't have to bet single props anywhere. You put them into a tournament style with 8 of them, your highest confidence ones at the top, get the most points, lowest confidence ones at the bottom. And the biggest thing more than anything else outside of just the format is you can make legitimate money and build your bankroll there. And you can do so by using the free tools that we have at Awesemo that we built specifically for this. The Awesemo No House Advantage player prop tool, the optimal lineup tool, both of them exclusively for No House Advantage and also entirely free. So you've got that to use as your companion piece over there at No House Advantage when you download the app, and you get your $20 deposit bonus when you sign up and use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Look, the props over there are static. They don't change throughout the day, no matter how many people are putting them into their lineups. Unlike other spots where, the more money or the more bets that come in on them can move the line. Not here. You're getting an edge by being able to decipher what is stale, what is a bad line, putting that in your lineup and making money over there at No House Advantage. Use the free tools, use the promo code, download the app, check it out, and then screenshot us your wins when it happens. No House Advantage. Check it out today when you download the app. Use the promo code Awesemo to get your $20. New York, LA Lakers, Josh. Toss this one over to you. New York Knicks 5-point dogs against the Lakers, 213.5 total. We're still waiting on this LeBron James news.
Yeah, so I like Julius Randle quite a bit for 9K on FanDuel. That price came down for reasons that I'm not really sure of. 38 minutes. And if you want to play a narrative about Randle going against LA, knock yourself out. I think it helps. But he's projected for 22% ownership. I agree with it. I think RJ Barrett for 6,400, given the minutes at 15% ownership, also looks pretty good. And then I won't play anybody else from the New York Knicks on FanDuel. On DraftKings, those are the only 2 guys that I'm interested in, but I don't like them nearly as much as I do on FanDuel. Randall already north of 10% ownership. I do not want to play 10% of Derrick Rose at 5,900. It's Randall and it's Barrett. Look, the Lakers defense is fantastic. If they're getting LeBron and AD back, it's even more fantastic.
Yep, pretty much. And then that makes the Lakers pretty unappealing as a team too.
Yeah, I don't think you play anybody here. LeBron's 9,300. If you want to roll those dice, go for it. I wouldn't. I got him in for 32 minutes. AD is now properly priced for who he is, and he's not getting any ownership. If that's a pay up to be contrarian option for you in GPPs, I would never fault anybody for going to Anthony Davis. He's one of the 10 best players on the planet, but no one for the LA Lakers looks good today.
Yeah, if LeBron sits, AD is at least someone that I could look at and be like, oh, okay, I kind of get that because, well, they're sitting at 7th in the West right now. Davis has played 39 and 41 minutes over his last 2 games. Like, he's going to play huge minutes if the game is huge.
Yeah. And you're looking for 60 out of him today. If he plays 36 minutes, we're talking 1.67 fantasy points per minute. To me, that's not crazy.
No.
But it's such a slow matchup. It's way more both teams are very defensively oriented. It's just a hard thing to get to.
It is.
But I'm expecting LeBron James is going to play today. That's my expectation.
And the other thing too that I guess could make it a little bit less enticing is that there are so many high-priced players in better spots that are getting no ownership still. You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
OKC, Sacramento, wrapping this one up. Jordan, we're going to do Hall of Fame segment on the deeper dive today. Usually I do it once a day. We'll do it a deeper dive. Won't do it today. We got 11 games. Josh and I, can at times be long-winded. So we'll do it this way. And be sure to check all of our shows out in podcast format or form if you haven't done so, or you just don't want to listen on YouTube. Maybe, like I always say, you don't want to put your phone in your pocket with the screen on. Starts getting hot. Starts killing your battery. Podcast from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is, check it out there. If you want to listen to all of our shows that have any bit of a shelf life outside of Deeper Dive or Live Before Lock, they're all right there. Leave a review and a rating while you're at it too. Helps us greatly. And it puts you in the running to win a free week of Awesemo Plus. Just leave your username or your Twitter handle. I think it's one of those. I don't know. You'll see. Okay, Josh, OKC and Sacramento. The Oklahoma City Thunder 11-point dogs against the still shorthanded Kings. But, I mean, life is tough for the Thunder right now.
I don't think you play anybody. No one's in double digits. The highest owned guy is Pogo Stick at 8% on FanDuel.
I love
it. They're all playing the same sort of minutes. Like they've nerfed everybody for OKC. And this is a fantastic spot against the Kings, but Baisley got to 30 minutes. Gabriel Deck got to 30 minutes. I don't know if Dort plays here. I mean, Kenrich Williams plays and then doesn't play, but it's just a lot of 22 to 26 minute guys. I mean, like, listen to this. I have Jalen Horde, Svi, Roby, Pogashevsky, Deck Brown, and Ty Jerome, all between 6 and 11% likelihood of being in the optimal. I don't know how to pick out of those guys.
And I
don't even know if Ty Jerome plays.
I don't know why.
There's no Maladon. We don't know about Dort. Like, if they start lopping more guys off and there's only 8 active bodies, then we need to think about it at least a little bit because the matchup against Sacramento is so good. But for now, I don't know how you pick who that guy is. This entire team is priced at like $4,700 on FanDuel and DK other than Baisley. They all look the same.
Yeah. I think we close it out with the Kings then.
I guess. What do we do with someone like Marvin Bagley, who's played minimal minutes in the last 2 games, but the last game was an absolute blowout? I assume Bagley closes, and then you probably want like 10% of them, but I don't know.
Nothing at this point with that guy. I have no idea what to think when it comes to Marvin Bagley. I honestly don't.
Same. I never expected DeLon Wright at north of 8K to be my favorite play from the Kings today.
Bagley, though, I mean, the guy, dude, I hear you, but the guy comes into this matchup after playing 3 straight games of 30+ minutes, has 8 DraftKings points in 19 minutes against the Spurs. Like, yeah. The reason I bring that up, that specific game, is because you're paying a mid 6K price point for a guy that might play 21 minutes, might play 24 minutes. I don't know where I stand on Bagley. He's the type of guy for me that if he's getting no ownership, I think he's a great play. If he's popular, I want nothing to do with him.
Well, I definitely don't want anything to do with the popular Mo Harkless at 4K on DraftKings, projected for 18% ownership. I'll get away from that. Listen to these rates: DeLon Wright, Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley. FanDuel points per minute over the last 30 days: 1.04, 1, 1.01, and 1.02. They're separated by 400ths of a fantasy point. How do you sift through that? Wright, Holmes, Hield, and Bagley.
Wow. Okay.
So, like, we've got Rashawn Holmes at 26% ownership on FanDuel. I think he's a really nice value against Oklahoma City, but I also see Joel Embiid sitting there with the potential to break the slate at no ownership. So I have a hard time wanting to say, like, Holmes is the cash center to me, unless you have enough money to get up to the Jokic's of the world. But Holmes looks really, really good today on FanDuel. And after that, it's just, if you want to get any of those 4 main guys, Wright, Holmes, Hield, Bagley, I'm for it. but
you're okay
be
paying
aware.
over 8K for Wright?
To me, he's the best play on the team.
God, like him and Buddy Hield are above 8K now. That just feels so gross.
It doesn't make me feel good in any way, but past 5 games for Wright, 31, 37, 40, 39, and 33 minutes.
I thought this game would be a little bit better than it is, but
shit, I can't hear you. It's me.
That's okay. We're heading out of here anyway. It's been a fun time doing this show with you guys. Thanks for sticking around as always. I know, we got a loyal bunch here sticking through till the end. Hour, 25 minutes, 11 games. We do what we can to get through it as quick as possible. Some tangents along the way. It is what it is. Hit that thumbs up before you go. Subscribe to the channel. Remember, we got plenty of stuff coming up throughout the day. If you missed Josh's process show, you can check that out Monday through Friday, 6:30 Eastern. But again, podcast form, you want to check it out here on YouTube, you can do that as well. And then PGA strategy show. The MLB strategy show is happening right now. Flip on over to that. Deeper dive for baseball, tip-off, NBA deeper dive, live before lock, all of that throughout the day right here on the Awesemo YouTubes. We'll see you back here soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
What a slate, dude.